Hey up everyone, welcome to Yorkshire Gamer's a Reet Big Wargames podcast and episode 9 I'm recording this on the afternoon of the 25th of June 2021 for release later today. As I spoke about in the outro of the previous episode, this one's a little bit special in that I've gone on the road to visit my guests for this one, and I've used a little device called a Zoom H1n. Not very expensive. It was about £100. Voice recorder, and recommended by lots and lots of people on YouTube as an entry level voice recorder. And I have to say, I'm pretty pleased with the results from it. It's not perfect, but as we've said many times before on this podcast, I'm learning about sound recording, I'm learning about editing, and in my mid 50s, it's all new to me. So the device, if you don't know, it's just handheld, and it's got a couple of directional microphones that are fixed onto the top of the recorder, so it's not individual mics. So if you listen closely to the interview that's coming up, you'll hear a bit of chair movement and that sort of thing. I didn't realise quite how sensitive the microphone on the Zoom was, and my editing skills, although I can remove background noise, I did that with the Nick Skinner interview. There was a bit of rumbling in the background from an electrical device or something that I was able to completely zone out, but with a move of a chair and a creak of a table, etc., because it's not constant, it's very hard to do. I'm sure it won't spoil your enjoyment. It's a live taping of two guys who enjoy and love their wargaming chatting in a room. So there's a little bit of background noise, and I'm sure it's perfectly livable with. Just a little bit of news in relation to the podcast going forward. We're just coming up to episode number 10, which is a bit of a milestone. It feels like I've been doing this forever, to be honest, but it's only coming up to just over 3 months, which surprised me when I had a look at this yesterday. But yeah, episode 10 is getting recorded tomorrow, and I'll talk about the guest as I normally do in the outro. Going forward, I have booked in the next 5 guests. I've not organised a schedule yet, but I've got a yes from 5 more guests, which will take us to 15. But inside the next few episodes, I want to do a couple of different things. I'm going to do a catch-up episode with some of my previous guests, just going through some of the things that we've talked about in their episodes, and getting their take on how things have gone with events, etc., that we've discussed during their individual episodes. And I'm going to do that as like a joint episode with lots of different guests coming on, and we'll just do 10, 15, 20-minute segments with each one of them, just so you get an idea of what's going on with the people that you've listened to during the previous episodes. I've also got something else planned. Hopefully it's going to come up. I'm going to invite a couple of people onto the podcast who probably wouldn't normally come on, for reasons which will become obvious. But I've got a little idea of having like a magazine episode, not so much hello, more of a up, and I'm going to approach those people fairly shortly, and let's see. I've got lots of really good ideas that I would think will be good for that. Lots of new little segments that won't necessarily work with just me, but would probably work with more of a panel of hosts rather than a single one. So let's say that they might tell me to bugger off. You never know. But the idea is there, and I just need to get some co-hosts in the chair. The guests that I've got planned in, I've got somebody from Australia. Somebody from the United States, and somebody from Italy as well. I'm looking forward to that one. Although my Italian isn't, as you know, if you've listened to anything of mine, my Italian is poorly, and their English isn't particularly good. So that's going to be a fun episode. But I really want to do it because I want to get people from other countries, and I think the enthusiasm will shine through rather than our lack of understanding and knowledge of each other's language. It's going to be done in English, so if it was done in Italian, we'd have finished 5 minutes ago. So that's where we are with the podcast. As always, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to suggest somebody to come on the podcast as a guest, if you want to fess somebody up for to get on, or just somebody that maybe you'd like to hear from, who is big game related, who maybe I haven't thought of. I do have a list of around 30 people who I want to have on the podcast, which I keep getting new ideas and seeing new things and writing them down. And I've spoke to people in the past, and it's just a case of scheduling and getting the time to speak to everyone. With the release schedule as it is once every 2 weeks. Bit difficult that, and that's still under review. But I've got so many people I want to speak to. I'm sure there's more out there as well. So any ideas? Drop me an email, yarkshiregamer@gmail.com, or leave a message on Podbean if you can follow me on there, or Twitter or Instagram, or the many places that Yorkshire Gamer exists in the world of social media. So that leads me to come on to our guest. I went to see Pete Morbey, who has been running Elite Miniatures since 1985. Now, those of you who don't know, and shame on you if you don't, Elite Miniatures are one of the classic 28mm horse and musket manufacturers, and the figures that Pete sculpts and makes have a very distinctive style that is synonymous with the big games that you will have seen photographs of from the Wargames Holiday Centre in all its guises. And going back to the old school magazines, it was those figures that graced the front covers and the articles of those days. However, I very much want to emphasise before we go into this interview that Pete isn't a legacy manufacturer. The Elite Miniatures is very much alive and kicking. He's producing new stuff. It's brilliant. His collector's series is so animated and gets such fantastic looking units. It really is worth checking them out. I don't want us to forget about the more established manufacturers, with the likes of Warlord and people coming along with these fancy done plastic stuff. There's lots of metal manufacturers, traditional metal manufacturers out there who are still producing new ranges, new lines, new figures, and that's exactly what Pete does. So, in the words of D.I. Regan, it's time to shat it! And let's go to our interview. Well, good morning everyone. This is Yarkshire Gamer, and we're going to do something different today. We're going to go on the road, and it's something we've not done before, face-to-face interview in this world of COVID and Zoom. And we've been invited along today to Elite Miniatures, who you will be glad to know are not outside the county of Yarkshire. So we are not going south of Sheffield, we're just going northeast a bit of Sheffield, which is great, and I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully the technology will work. It's the first time I've recorded away from home, so literally anything could go wrong, and I'm sure it will do. But we're just going to set off from the outskirts of Leeds and Bradford and head over to Doncaster. So let's fire up the Quattro and get on our way. Okay everyone, for today's guest we've gone on the road, and I don't want you to worry, but I am within the bounds of Yorkshire. I'm northeast of Sheffield. I've not gone south of Sheffield, so I'm safe. I've not had to use my passport, and I've been very kindly invited down to the headquarters of Elite Miniatures.
and I'm going to talk today with a long-standing member of the wargaming community. Links back to Peter Gilder and the Wargames Holiday Centre, which, if you've listened back to the previous 9 episodes, has been mentioned in virtually all of them. And our guest today is a painter, a figure designer, a wargamer, and the founder of Elite, companies whose figures just ooze that big game feel. So let's give a huge welcome to Pete Morbey from Yorkshire Gamer's Reet Big Wargames podcast. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Brilliant. So, we discussed, we had a little chat before we started off the microphone, and you've not done a podcast before, have you?
No, I haven't, no.
No, so no TV or radio experience? Or
no, nothing at all.
Well, I'm sure we'll manage. We'll have a good chat today and talk about yourself and your gaming history, and also Elite Miniatures, and we'll talk about them towards the end.
Okay.
But the first thing that I like to do with any of my guests is obviously put them under a bit of pressure. And by doing that, what I like to do is I like to talk to people about get them to tell me their wargaming history. But rather than droning on about it for 2 hours, I'm going to just ask you to tell me in about 4 minutes, starting from... I've got a little timer, and if you go on too long, the countdown music comes on.
Okay.
And then D.I. Regan from the Sweeney will tell you to shut it. So, just from being wherever you want to start, from being a little lad, just tell us how you got into hobby.
Well, like most people, I started with Airfix models,
Yeah.
kits and things, and I saw an advert for a whiskey in a like a glossy magazine.
Yeah.
Where a couple were sat over this Wargames table with all the figures set out.
Yes.
Yes, you remember it?
Yeah.
And that piqued my interest. I love the way it was all set out.
Yeah.
And sort of went from there. Found out about metal figures.
Yeah.
Learnt to paint a bit more. Like I say, started looking for Wargames rules. Got David Chandler's. Not David Chandler's.
Charles Grant. That's the last.
Charles Grant's book on Wargames rules, and all the photos in there were similar to the advert in the mag.
Yeah.
Learned about Peter Gilder from that.
Yeah.
Followed Peter Gilder a bit more, bought his figures.
Yeah.
Eventually went to the Holiday Centre when he started in Fotonley Dale.
Yeah.
Sat with him for quite a few nights in his little cubby hole as he was designing figures and painting and learning as much as I could from him.
Yeah.
And that led to me painting for him.
Yeah.
I used to paint units up in exchange for going to the Holiday Centre.
Ah, right, yeah, good deal.
And then I thought I'd have a go at designing some figures. Designed the first figure, showed it to Peter. He loved it, but it was built on a thin wire frame which wasn't strong enough to go into the production. So made the second figure, and he had it put it in his range. So I thought, well, I shall keep going. So my aim was to do similar thing to him, work for myself, designing figures, painting, and working on something I enjoy, rather than going out to work. And I was an architectural technician at the time, and I wanted to stay at home and work. Yeah. So, and it's worked for 35 years, 36 years.
Brilliant. Is that, you're not going to go any further?
No, I think is that the 4 minutes?
No, you 2 minutes 30. Some people go too far and just keep going, and you've summarised well. So there's a few things we'll dig into there, just to get a little bit more detail. You mentioned that you were an architect technician, and did you have an early interest in art?
I did enjoy art, and I did enjoy technical drawing. At school, the art teacher and the technical drawing teacher wanted me both to choose their course for O level. I went for technical drawing because I enjoyed the preciseness. And that led to doing building diplomas and getting into architectural technician work. I enjoyed the drawing bit, didn't enjoy the scratching out,
Yeah.
which architects kept coming up and saying, no, we need to change this, we need to change this, and
Yeah.
I spent more time scratching out than anything else. So eventually I did this part-time for 5 years and then decided to take the plunge.
Yeah. And you're painting, as we talked about earlier before we started recording, your figures have been around in the magazines for quite a long time. How did you start painting? What was the drive for that?
I take my inspiration from larger figures.
Yeah.
I used to look at the pictures for sort of 54s, 70s,
Oh, right,
90mm figures. So I wanted to get that effect down onto this, but be able to do sort of 30, 40 figures. So I sort of experimented from that until I've got something I'm happy with. I'm still changing now, but it was basically that.
Yeah. And where did you have a mentor when it came to painting? Did you learn from Peter, or where did it start?
Peter probably helped.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd got somewhere before I met him.
Yeah.
But I think he took me in his little cubby hole and sort of showed me some techniques that he uses to speed things. Because obviously with wargaming you need to paint a lot to get a decent amount on the table.
Going,
so he used to show me a few techniques, and I've sort of honed them and improved them, but improved them to how I'm satisfied with it. So mainly self-taught, I think.
And because I think these days you can learn to paint very quickly by watching YouTube videos and doing it that way. And to some ways it can be quite confusing because there's so many different techniques out there. And it's interesting to know how people started off in the early days. Yeah. And when you started, did you start with enamels or?
I did start with enamels, yes, umbrella enamels.
Because that's there's a lad, James Loach, who lives up near me, who's Olicani lad on the blog post, and he still paints with enamels, which is really strange to me. How have you moved on to acrylics now?
Yeah, I use acrylics now. Yeah.
And how long ago did you make that change?
I was still doing the shows at the time, so this must be in the 80s.
Yeah. So relatively.
Yeah.
Relatively.
I was never happy with. I could never get, because I prefer the matte varnish.
Yeah.
And with Humbrolls, you could never get a matte varnish that would. You could generally say it's going to go matte when you've used it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that. You can put so much. You can put layers and layers and layers on it. Nothing works.
And so I tried the acrylics, and the matte varnish.
Yeah.
Comes out matte every time. So.
And with horses, do you use oils at all? Because I know that was one of Peter's techniques.
I used to.
Yeah.
But when I came to acrylics, because I used to do a lot of painting in the house, and of course terps
and oils
smelly. Acrylics, there's really no smell. Yeah. So I've developed a technique for the horses, which I'm happy with, but using acrylics.
Oh right, good, excellent.
Yeah.
And with the painting, then you've got stuff on your website for Elite Miniatures that are for sale. So do you commission paint, or do you just put stuff up on there as a random thing?
I put stuff up there when I've had time to do something. Yeah. I don't do commissions per se because I just don't get time. Yeah. I've got one chap who I paint for regularly. He bought my Peninsula collection. Yeah. So I keep adding. Chopping up his bit.
Yeah, well, you've got to keep him sweet, haven't you? He's bought all that stuff. Yeah. And do you find time to paint for yourself?
I do, yes. I make time to paint for myself.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Because if you don't, I'm doing this for myself. Yeah. And Elite Miniatures is funding the mortgage and stuff, I want to paint for myself, so I do find time to paint.
Oh, that's good. That's great to hear. So, what are your big? I mean, just describe where we are. Then we're in your Wargames room. Yeah. Just for the people who are listening, just kind of tell us what we've got here.
We've got basically there's a central table, 6 by 15. Yeah. 2 tables running down either side, 2x15, with plenty of memorabilia around the place.
Yeah. It looks like it's a lovely space to game in, and as I said before we started, it's got that Wargames Holiday Centre look about it with the outer tables, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's very much influenced by that.
Very much so. Yes. Yes, I've been going there for years while Peter had it.
Yeah,
and Jerry.
Yeah, and for your own stuff, then, what are your collections? What do you have?
I like the 1796 campaign in Italy, which is what this lot here is.
Yeah,
I've got the 1809 campaign, which is my other period with Austrians and French. I did start doing some World War II stuff, as you can see, in
oh god, yeah,
148 scale. But I found I'm just not got time.
Yeah,
I've had to sort of trim down what I do and concentrate on
making a living.
And I'd love to do lots of other stuff, but you've got to specialise. Yeah.
When in this first bit in the introduction, I like to talk to people about something I've made up called the Venn diagram of wargaming, and that's just people trying to break down how they fit into a number of categories, because it seems, although wargaming is a hobby, there's lots of different people within that hobby. There's people like me who likes paint and collects more than gaming. So if you were looking at wargamer, painter, collector, historian, which would be dominant in your personality? Or would they all fit together the same?
They all go in together.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a wargamer collector.
Yeah.
Because I prefer nice units, well painted, rather than trying to get a mass done. I definitely enjoy gaming. I enjoy the historical side of it.
Yeah.
What else was there?
Wargamer, painter, collector, and historian.
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. So
definitely,
it's not. You're not all for the game.
No.
You're not all for the painting.
No.
It's a nice. Well, that's
It all leads one to the other.
Yeah.
I enjoy the painting, but I need. I'm painting a unit to wargame with.
Yeah.
So it sort of leads.
Yeah.
one
No,
to
that's
the other.
because the different people I've spoken to have come at it from different angles, and some people have been very much about getting stuff on the table to game, and the paint and collect is a chore.
No, it's not.
To game. So you're kind of a love of absolutely all of it.
Yeah.
Then.
You've seen the website. I've done my own set of wargames rules, so it's
the whole
thing. Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. One thing that we've got to talk about, that probably won't be covered later on, is the Wargames Holiday Centre. So it's been mentioned quite a lot in other podcasts I've done, and just explain to people what you remember about the first time that you went there.
Wow, that's going back. The first time I think the first time I went, it was an American Civil War. It was a weekend.
Yeah.
At Thornton Dale, we did an American Civil War game. I can remember you stayed in the house that Peter and his family lived in, and it was an L-shaped table, sort of 6 foot wide, and it was sort of L-shaped to fit in the room it got. I can't even remember who else was there, to be honest. It was that far ago.
So this is before the shed in the garden one with the tables laid out like this.
Yes, it's very much before. It was his first attempt at the holiday centre.
Yeah.
So that is.
So roughly, what are we talking about? Late 70s, early 80s?
No, I'm terrible at dates. I can't even remember when he started it. It must have been within the first 6 months of when he started it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember when he started it. And it must have been.
And how did you find out about it?
I think I saw the advert in the magazine.
Which magazine?
It'll have been miniature war games illustrated or miniature war games.
Yeah.
I can't remember the one.
Yeah, 'cause I was trying to work out how, before the days of the internet, how
Yeah.
people
Oh,
found out.
it was definitely an advert. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. And are you in contact with people that you've met from the Wargames Holiday Centre over the years still?
Yeah, a couple. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. One of them comes here to War Game
Yeah.
quite regularly.
A lot of friendship seems to have grown up
Yeah.
out of that.
Yeah.
Those meetings. So that just brings me on to the last little bit in this introduction. What are you working on at the moment as a personal project? What's your thing at the moment?
I'm trying out some 40 mils.
40 mils.
Yes.
Right. That's news.
Yeah. Well, I'm just sort of. I prefer the larger figure because these collector series figures are more like 30, 35 mil rather than the traditional 28, 30.
Yeah.
And I just try in some 40s. Fancy's having a go at something a bit larger.
Are you designing those yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Any particular period?
I've gone back to my original thing of Waterloo.
Ah,
So
brilliant.
I'm just looking for a gap in the market, and there's no 40
Yeah.
mils that I know of that for 1815 period.
Yeah.
So if I'm happy with it, I might continue it.
Because I think, is it the Perrys that have brought some 40s?
Perry's have got some. What's that American company? Sells everything in big bags.
Old Glory?
Old Glory,
Yeah.
they do
Right,
them.
okay, yeah.
I think Front Rank do some 40s as well.
Yeah. Because I've not really noticed. I've seen them, but it's not something that's perked my interest yet.
No.
Usually because I've got down to the bit where it says price.
Well, I'm looking at it. Eyesight's going a bit. I need something a bit bigger.
Well, that's what's starting to creep into my head as well. I've gone through the 6 are a bit small, 10 are a bit small, 50, and now I'm 28, so that's what I'm still painting most of.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think, maybe something a little bit bigger. Well, that's been a fantastic little chat and introduction there, so thanks very much for that. And I'll just take a quick break for the audience, and then we'll come back in a second.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we're back for our normal second section, and this is where we talk about big games, and that's the whole reason for this podcast is big games. So, Pete, we're in a war games room with a 15-foot table, so you clearly like the big game.
I do, yeah.
So, if somebody says big game, what does that bring in your mind?
It brings the Holly Centre to mind again.
Yeah.
That sort of, although I've reduced it, because you find that even at the Holly Centre you're still playing with the same amount of figures as you would do in a place like this.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of scale. We get about 4 to 6 people in here.
So it's more of a collective group of smaller games it can break down to some.
Yes. It's within the same battle.
What kind of then is the drive for you to go for the bigger games rather than breaking this table down into 4 6x4s and playing smaller games?
I like to see big units on a big table.
Yeah.
I like to see the whole division.
Yeah.
Not just fighting with a battalion.
Yeah.
It's just the aesthetics.
Yeah.
I just love the look. And finding a set of war games rules that works, that utilises what you've got. Figure wise, it just floats my boat.
We're sat here and we're looking at some of your units then, and everything here is 28mm, which is great for us. We love a bit of 28mm, and you figure your battalions are what sort of size?
They vary from 32. I've got 32s there up to 48s. I think there's a 60 or 50 there.
Yeah, there's a lot of figures on that one.
I think that's a 48.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to use a figure scale of 1 to 15 in the war games rules. Basically, because when you look at the Orbats, I was looking at a 36-man French unit at 1 to 20. It comes out too strong. Right. If you do it at 1 to 15, they work at the average size they were. It's not. It's just that. Yeah.
And these unit sizes then, and your cavalry there, we're looking at 24.
That's a 32.
32, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get my glasses on in the car. So 32.
I like to look at the Orbats.
Yeah.
And get the actual size of the units involved. That's a 32 unit.
Yeah.
The second unit in the brigade, is only 18.
Yeah.
So I like variation of unit size on the table. I like to see them all the same size, which also provides a tactical problem when you come up to a big unit, or you've got a small unit or a number of small units trying to
get through
hold back a big one.
I think having larger units, you get to understand that difficulty of getting it through a gap in a fence.
You do, yeah.
Between two buildings, and there's always a stand at the end who doesn't quite fit. So I'm sure it is. We're influenced here by Grand Manor rules.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Is that something that you still use for big?
I use my own rules now.
Ah, right.
Which are based on Grand Manor. I've sort of evolved them. Grand Manor were good for people going to a holiday centre who don't understand the rules properly, and they're quite basic and they're easy to pick up on. Yeah. But after a while, you can see what's happening. You can you know exactly what's going to happen. So there's no jeopardy.
Yeah.
Jeopardy. There's no.
I think he was Magic Roundabout. Wasn't
So I've introduced a bit more command and control.
Yeah.
A bit more variation in various factors. So you've got to allow for things going wrong.
That's interesting. That is interesting because have these been published then, or is
yes?
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you plug them? What are they called?
Controlling the chaos.
Controlling the chaos. Ah, right. I'll have to have a look at them then.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my friends still play Grand Manor and with modifications.
Yeah.
But the one big thing that was always missing for me, as you've just described there, is that overall command and what I think is termed modern days as friction.
Yeah.
Things can go wrong. Your orders might not work.
Yeah.
So how have you modified? How have you introduced that into your rule?
The command, when in the Grand Manor, if you had a general within, I think it's 18 inches, you get a plus on your morale factor. In mine, you've got to have your general in face-to-face contact with a particular unit.
Yeah.
Now the general's also got an ADC or 2 or 3, depending on
how good he is. Yeah.
Where he is in the chain. The ADC can also give because it's all. I'm thinking onto a Napoleonic battlefield full of smoke and what's happening. The battalion will only be noticing what's around it, not 18 inches, which is going to be in the scale 200-300 yards away.
Yeah.
So he's got to be in personal contact, and the gamer then has got the choice: do I put the general with that unit and the ADC with the other one? Or he can put the ADC all with one unit if he's in trouble. If that unit's in trouble, and it increases the morale factor. But there's also a chance of them getting shot.
Yeah.
and taken out for a few moves.
So there's a bit of risk involved.
Yeah, you've got to weigh things up.
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting to know. I shall keep my eye out for those. Is it a social activity for you, the bigger game?
Yes. I enjoy the company. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's it's great to have a group of friends that.
Yeah, that's part of it, isn't it?
That's part of it. Yeah. And is it the same people who come here and game?
Generally, yeah. I've got somebody else who's interested, another figure painter who says, when you start up, let me know. So he's a nice lad. I enjoy getting on with them.
Yeah.
I don't like wargaming with. When you go to the holiday centre, you wargame with whoever's there.
Yes.
Or you did initially, and there's some. So I enjoy gaming with equally minded people.
Yes, I think that's quite an interesting point, because I game at my house and I've got not quite as big as this, but I've got a similar setup, and the people. It's different to gaming with somebody at the Wargames Holiday Centre who you don't know.
Yeah,
it's different to gaming with somebody at a competition who you might not want to know. So, sometimes it can get a bit gamey, a bit competition-y.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're inviting these people into your house, aren't you?
Yes.
So there's kind of a bit of a vetting going on before they come in. Now, as people who know on the podcast and know me, I've got a rather large German Shepherd who's quite good at vetting. He's not walked out with anybody's arm yet.
No,
but
come close.
The danger's there. The danger's there if we get any gamer types in, which I don't think we would, to be honest. So, if you needed to define a big game, would that be something that you could do with a table size? Or?
I think it's how the units are presented.
Yeah.
I think the big game is you've got big units.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many you've got, but it's the size of the unit represents the big game.
Yes, no, that is a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Because on other podcasts, I've the criticism of 28mm recently has been that the battalions look like a colour party, i.e. a couple of blokes with flags and 12 figures. But we're not doing that here, are we? We're not doing that here. And we're not doing that at Yorkshire Gamer either. So for all those listeners out there, we don't do 12-figure units with a couple of flags. We do a lot bigger than that. So we could scratch that one off.
I even contemplated doing 1 to 10 for me 1796 stuff.
My word, what size would you have gone to with that?
60, 70 odd figures in a unit. It's just time painting these things. I mean, I did start off like that, but I've chopped them down a bit now.
Yeah, that would take a long time. do you find with bigger units that it can get to be a little bit of a grind to get the last base finished?
It depends on. I mean, I used to paint the whole unit all in one go.
Yeah. Which
can be a bit of a grind.
Yeah.
I've now started to split them into two.
Right.
And paint them in two. So 2 20-man.
Yeah. So are you do you do all the boots on 20, all the clothes on 20, all the facings on 20?
Production run. Yeah.
Right, okay. No, that's it. Because I struggle to do more than 8 at a time. But
I mean, I'm doing a 36 odd man unit now, and I'm doing it all in one go.
Yeah. Dedication.
I found it easier. You could sit there. It's relaxing. You just do this bit and this bit. I can fit it in around other things. Yeah. I know I've got to do that stage. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Go away and do
something. It's interesting as a painter to speak to other painters about what they're taking. There's a lad, Gareth Lane, in the first episode, and he does huge batches in one go. He'll do 60 or 70 figures in one go. And we got that down to him being ex-military and just having the discipline to go, I'm going to do 60 canteens on these figures. And when I've done that, I'll go and get a cup of tea. Whereas I would go, I've done 6. Let's put them to one side and move on from there. So you can keep pushing through those and get...
Put something, I've got a video thing I could put a talking book on or something and just away. Yeah.
Podcasts are very good.
Yes.
Just get my plug in there while we're on. And have you dabbled? We've talked about bigger scales. Have you dabbled with anything smaller?
When I was very early in my wargaming career, I did dabble with 15s.
Yeah.
I did dabble with 6s.
Ooh.
But not to any great extent. I just couldn't. It's the painting that's, I need to be able to paint the figure nicely.
Yeah. So the size of the unit and the look of the unit is driving you on to paint those bigger scales, and I certainly get that. And I think the vast majority of the people who listen to this do. Certainly, the feedback that I've had from people listening to these podcasts are, I love painting 28mm, and I'll sit and I'll listen to you chatting on while I'm painting. So if you're out there painting 28mm, good on you. Yep. Good on you. I'm sure you'll have thousands of these, but let's see if we can pick out a few big games that you've played that kind of stick in your memory for whatever reason.
Right, we did the Battle of Waterloo at it was the Scarborough, when you moved to Scarborough, the big one,
the big shed,
and they had the gamers from the Birmingham Wargames Centre down.
Oh,
the
right.
Wargames
Yeah.
group down. And they were on the other side. And I was out. I think I was on the right somewhere. But they just came in with the guard straight away. The guard just went straight up the middle, straight over the ridge. By sort of mid-afternoon, it was over. You know, they just came straight over the top.
Yeah.
That always sticks in me in my mind.
Have you been sat there and looking?
Yeah, I've been sat. There's not a lot going on over here, so I've just come over and look to see what's going on in the middle, and there's all this guard coming over.
Yeah. And that part of the big game is something that I enjoy. Is that sense of a place within a larger game of playing your little bit, and then not as that brigade commander would be, or divisional commander, or whatever role you're taking. He wouldn't have an effing clue what's going on half a mile, 2 miles away.
Yeah.
You know, if you're down at Papilot, what's going on at Leigh Saint? I don't know. Where is it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
you sort of because if there's not a lot going on, the bit where the action's going on takes a lot longer. So you're wandering around looking to see what's going on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's kind of this, I'm just going to get on my horse. I'm just going to get on my horse and go and have a look over there. What's going on? So that one. Any more that you can think of? Just so many.
It's just they all mingle into the one after a while.
Yeah. So how often would you go up to?
I used to go up as much as I could. Once every 2 months, something like that.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah,
So
I used
fairly
to.
regular then.
Yeah.
And
Once I got the figures painted he wanted.
right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Trouble is, he'd get them and then he'd sell them as soon as he'd got them.
Cheeky.
Yeah, somebody'd come up and offer him loads of money, and
Was that Pete or
Pete.
Jerry?
Peter.
Pete.
Yeah.
So how long did you go to the holiday centre for then?
I went. I mean, the last time I think I went up was when Peter died, because he arranged like a farewell game, if you like.
Yeah.
I think it was an American Civil War game, if I remember rightly. So with all the people he knew, like David Thomas from the Trade Stand and various other gamers, we all went up for his last game, and he just sat and watched in a wheelchair. So I think that was the last time I went up to Jerry's.
Yeah,
I think so. It might have been one time after, because I can remember a TV crew wanting to interview me, which never happened. I was a bit camera shy, so.
There's no cameras here today, so we're all right with that.
Yeah.
And have you had somewhere to get a big game fixed since, or has everything been done?
I do everything here, really.
Yeah.
I like I say, I do suffer from migraine, so I don't travel much at the moment. So I tend to do everything here.
And are you involved in the club scene at all? Are you in the local club? No.
I used to early on. I used to go to the Doncaster club, but it didn't have what I want. I like nice scenery.
Yes.
In the game and nice figures. They used to war game on the snooker table with the cloth over it.
Right.
So it didn't, and it was either medieval or 1:285 scale modern, which wasn't my thing. So I didn't go for many weeks.
Yeah. And how big a thing do you think is terrain in a bigger game?
I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole look of the thing. If the terrain's wrong, it's no good. It's no good how good the figures are.
very, very true. And have you ever been involved in putting games on at shows?
Yes.
You have.
We put a few demo games on when I used to go around the trade shows.
Yeah.
But they're not exactly games. You just sit there and talk to people, move a few figures, and the people come and talk.
Yeah. Have you ever done a smaller, like, skirmish type game, or no?
They just don't.
Yeah. You're speaking to the right man, because I've openly admitted many times on this podcast, and swear word coming up, I am absolutely shit at skirmish gaming.
Tell a lie. I have done one skirmish game. It's when I went to America to visit my American agent, and he did a skirmish game on a green baize table.
Yeah,
and it doesn't float my boat, I'm afraid. The nearest thing I do to skirmish, I suppose, is World War II.
Yeah,
I've done some rapid fire with Colin Munford,
Yeah.
But not, I mean that.
Because Colin's from Hull way, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah. So it's not
I mean that is, if you like, in big game in World War II, isn't it?
Yeah. So just before we draw this section on the bigger game to a close, I don't know how much you follow the war games industry and the trends and all that sort of stuff. But big games have kind of gone out of fashion, and we seem to be in a 10 figures aside skirmish game on a 2-foot table, which is kind of not what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
But it's an introduction into the game. But people I've spoken to are wary about a big game, and it's all, I can't do it because I haven't got the space. Or is there anything that you could say to somebody newish into the hobby to encourage them to maybe aspire to go for a bigger game?
Well, the big game, I suppose, is putting them off.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, my definition of a big game is nice big units, but you don't have to have a big table.
Yeah.
I've set my rules up so that they can be played with a small amount of units.
Yeah.
But in a big game format.
Yeah.
So I mean, so suppose that big game title is putting them off because you need space. You don't. You can have I suppose you can have a 6-foot square table and have a reasonable game on it.
Yeah.
As long as the rules cope with it.
Yeah. And I think when people see it, I think people, if anyone came in here and sat down and looked at these figures, they'd go, you know what, I want to do that.
Yes, that's how I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to sit down and think, that's what I want to do. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing it.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'm not always happy with what I've done, so I'm still aiming higher.
Yeah.
All the time. So.
Well, thank you very much for that. Lovely chat on the big game.
Okay.
And we'll come back in a minute. You're not worried about this quiz, are you?
I hope not.
Everyone is. You're not the only one.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the third section. And this is the section that is particularly liked by the listeners and not so much by the guests. So, the usual disclaimer before we start that this is a test of how Yorkshire Gamer you are, and any answers given may not necessarily be right or wrong. It's just whether you agree with me. And being from Yorkshire, that means that I'm always right. And as we've got 2 Yorkshiremen in the room, no, not a Yorkshireman, just somebody who lives in Yorkshire. Where are you from then, Pete?
I was born in Woking.
In Woking, oh.
But my natural father is American.
All right.
And my natural mother's English, so But I've been here since I was 12.
Ah, right, okay. Another Yorkshireman like myself, because I was, as I've said on this podcast before, I was born in Cheshire, so
right.
I've got my honorary Yorkshireman badge after 30 years in the county. So there's no right or wrong, as we say to the kids today. You can't possibly fail,
No.
and it's just there will either be one answer or the other. So I'll give you 2 choices, and you go for one, or a yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
There's no 10,000 word theses on Bavarian flags of the 1813 campaign or anything like that. So it's just a little bit of a laugh and a joke and see how we get on. So are you ready to go?
Yep, ready.
So first question is: go big or go home?
Go big.
Go big. Contrast paints, are they great or are they a gimmick?
Oh, gimmick.
Some of these questions have local bias introduced into them, and you may notice this in this particular question. Paintbrushes, Winsor and Newton or Yorkshire made Pro Art?
Winsor and Newton, as I use them.
96 figures. Does that mean an army to you or a pipe block?
Pipe block.
6x4 table. Is that a big game or a small game?
Small.
If you're choosing to do a battle, would you use points to set it up, or would you use an historical order of battle?
Historical.
I'm getting some secrets here painting wise. When you're painting, do you use a wet palette or an old bit of MDF to mix your paints?
I use a plastic tray.
Plastic tray, no, that's good, I'll give you half a point for that. As long as you're off the wet pallet, because I've got some issues with that.
Right.
They're all right for
Okay.
growing. They're all right for growing cress.
Yes.
To put in your. But apart from that, when you undercoat figures, are you black or white?
White.
White. Another bias question: do you drink Yorkshire tea or dirty mucky coffee?
Both.
Both. I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it. Wargames units, do you like the figures tightly packed or socially distanced?
Tightly packed.
Tightly packed. You've got a choice of a game. Do you choose a 2-hour evening game or a weekend monster game?
Weekend monster game.
This is the Nick Skinner, Two Fat Loudies question. Avocado, is it just posh mushy peas? Yes. We've got the southerner out of you. If you know that avocados are just... The only place that avocados aren't posh mushy peas in Yorkshire is Harrogate.
Yeah.
That's the only place. Spherical dice, round dice, are they allowed or banned? Banned, excellent. We've got a national campaign going. This might go over your head, this question, but I'm asking it. Would you pay 33 pence for a communist?
No.
No. Excellent. I'll explain that one in a minute.
Okay.
Do you like a good table and a set of rules? And by that I mean like a casualty table or a factor table or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
28 mil is king, yes or no?
Yes.
Excellent. We're on the same wavelength here. Unpainted miniatures allowed on the table?
No.
Yes
No.
or
No.
Deal breaker question, and for the audience, I am wearing a Bradford City top. Bradford City or Leeds United?
I did used to support Leeds United.
Oh dear, there's always one. Easy question. Yorkshire or the other place over the hill?
Yorkshire.
And GW, are they the work of the devil? Final question. Games Workshop.
Oh, what was the choices?
Are they the work of the devil?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. 1, 2, 3. 80%.
Well, that's all right.
That's not too bad at all. Quite happy with that.
Yeah.
That'll put you in joint third place. And there's quite a few eminent people in third place, including a professor of medieval Scottish history. So you are doing quite well. The leader at the moment is still Richard Harris on 90%, and he's from Yorkshire,
Right.
and he failed because he's a Leeds United fan.
Oh,
And
right.
that was the
Okay.
question he got wrong. And I hope that wasn't too strenuous.
No, that's fine.
Right, we'll be back in a second when we're going to talk about elite miniatures. Okay, we're on to the big topic now, and we've been kindly invited down to the home of elite miniatures. So I suppose the first question then, Pete, the obvious question is, what's the history of elite miniatures? How did it start?
It started with, obviously, Holiday Centre again,
Yeah.
seeing what Peter Gilder did, and I thought I wanted to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I gave it a go,
Mm.
and I'd been converting figures for a while,
Yeah.
but never actually made a full figure. So I thought I'd give it a go, and Peter gave me a few pointers and took the second figure I ever made went into Elite Miniatures.
Yeah.
Talked a lot to Peter about it. I made figures for Peter.
Yeah.
I did all his Spanish, in his connoisseur range, did all his Spanish figures. A few bits and pieces for his French. And I've heard since after he died that he was interested in getting me to work, come into connoisseur figures.
Oh, nice.
There was talk about me doing a lot more work for him, but I wanted to be my own boss, work for myself. So I didn't go down that route, which leads me to this.
Yeah. So how has Elite Miniatures progressed over the years then? So you've gone from kind of being alongside Peter and Connoisseur Miniatures, and then
Initially I started doing Napoleonics, but Napoleonics that Peter didn't do.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be opposite to competitive with him.
Yeah.
So I did the 1806 period, 1805 period, and obviously built it up from there. Adding more more Napoleonics mainly. Done some 70s war.
Yeah.
It's a vast period to cover, so there's lots to do. And built it up from there.
Yeah. So for the people listening, I haven't got a clue how you would make a figure. Okay, I've been involved in wargaming for 40 years, and all that time is as a painter. And people who know me know I'm absolutely crap at modelling. These new plastic figures, I've got holes in them everywhere. Well, they paint up all right, so that's what matters. So what's the process then from the idea of having a figure to actually getting it into production?
My process works. I think about the unit it's going to be in first, and I look at a lot of paintings. I do like to get that sort of look.
Yeah.
So I pick out figures from paintings. I thought, I want to do that pose. I want to do that pose. Then I use see if I've got an old figure that's similar.
Yeah.
In shape, and then I can cut it and bend it, trim it right down. Yeah. So it's just a frame. Yeah. And then I build up the figure from the feet.
Right. Upwards.
in milliput.
Yeah.
Sculpture it.
And do you have I think they're called dollies.
That will be the metal frame underneath. Right. That'll be the dolly. Yeah. I have done it a few times where you can make a dolly, put everything on it apart from the arms and the head, and then you can change its position. Yeah. To make a different figure, but they tend to look a bit wooden. Yeah. I like a bit more movement, and so I like to design the figure from scratch.
Right, so you're not kind of bolting on stuff to a base.
Not generally.
Not generally.
You can do the initial master of what you're aiming for. Yeah. But then you can see, that will do as something else if I just change this bit or just put different arms on it. Yeah. But generally, I don't like dollies as such.
And
I mean, it's quicker using dollies.
Yeah.
But depends what you're aiming for.
Exactly. Yeah. And milliput, is that just ordinary milliput, or is it a fine milliput? Or?
Just the basic milliput, the I think grey green one.
Yeah, because there's like a silver.
I've tried the fine stuff, but it comes out white, and you can't see the detail. While you're sculpting, it's too bland. Yeah, I like a bit. You need a bit of definition. Yeah, shadow and what have you. Yeah. To be able to see what you do. To be able to see what you're doing,
rather than just looking at a white blob.
Yeah.
So what's the sculptor's tools of trade then?
My favourite tool comes from a manicure set.
Does it?
Yeah, it's a little cuticle thing or whatever it's called. I use that on nearly everything. Yeah. I've got some dentist tools. Yeah. Which most sculptors use, I think, at some point.
And would that be the tools that they would use to pack in fillings and that sort of thing?
Yeah. There's various scrapers and pointers and ones with needles on and things. Yeah.
And how long does it take you to do a figure then? If you start from scratch?
Oh, it can take a week. Yeah. Because you're doing a little bit. Yeah. Then you've got to put it under the heat lamp to dry. Right. Because you don't want to put your finger on it and damage what you've already done.
Fantastic face.
Yeah. So it's I'll do 1 foot, the boot, and perhaps the gaiter, around the ankles. Yeah. And then I'll put it under the lamp to dry. And then I'm working on about 5 or 6 figures at the same time. Yeah. So I'll give them sort of half an hour or so to dry and come back and do the next foot and work up with the trousers and the waistcoat, jacket.
And within each individual figure, just looking at some of these that we've got on the table here in front of us, we've got French infantry firing, for example. You've got different head types. Are they? Do you purchase them individually, or do you make them as part of a code and there's a mix?
I sell my 28s in a pack of 4. Yeah. So you buy a pack of 4. With those, the ones you're particularly looking at, there'll be 4 different figures in each pack. Right. They'll all be standing firing, but there'll be various poses, or they'll be standing loading. There'll be various poses, so you can get the variety in the unit.
Yeah. And is that something that you look for when you're doing these figures? Do you have a number of poses within a pose, if you see what I mean? French fire and infantry will have how many figures?
I do for the collector series because that's for my own personal collection.
Yeah.
For the standard ranges, I don't. There are some packs that have variation in them, but generally no.
Yeah.
It's time. It takes a lot longer to do 4
Cool.
figures than it does 1. So.
Yeah. And do you find that as people's tastes in figures over the years changed? Because if we look back to the older figures, it tended to be one pose throughout the battalion, and then a drummer, a couple of standard bearers, and an officer. Yeah. Whereas now, so I'm looking across at some of the French figures and the Darmstadt.
The Hessians, yeah.
They're kind of they're one-ish pose altogether.
There's 2 poses in there.
2 poses in there.
But you mix them up and twist them round, and they look.
Whereas with the French line that we're looking at there, that's I don't think there's not many figures the same. There
is with that particular one. There's actually 5 different poses: standing, firing, 5 loading, and 4 dead.
And people who. So when people come to you, then are they mostly wanting the all one pose look, or are they going for the mix? Let's call it ragged look.
I think most of them like the one pose or 1 or 2 pose look.
Yeah.
Because quite a few of them will buy a lot.
Yes.
And send them off to painters.
Right.
So I think they're gamers rather than collectors who like variation and nice units. They're building up mass rather than
variety.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to know. Is there a particular pose that's harder to do than others?
Not necessarily the pose. It's working out whether the pose will work in the mould.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's bayonets and swords that don't always come out.
Right.
So it's not necessarily the pose. Well, I suppose it is the pose, but it's working out whether it's going to work in the mould, and you think you've got it.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't.
Still to work in the mould.
It can change from mould to mould.
Yeah.
You can do one mould with a certain pose and then change the heads, say, to put bicords on, like with those, and it works better in the second mould.
Right.
Than it does in the first mould.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Try a bit of trial and error.
Yeah.
It does the world of good. Yeah. So do you do the whole process then? Do you make the moulds and do the casting and
yes, I'm a one-man band.
One-man
do everything myself.
Have you not got a little minion to go and do all that sort of stuff?
I don't want the responsibility of keeping somebody else working.
No worries at all. How long do you spend researching figures or ranges then, if you do something new?
Well, obviously, you can see I've got a lot of books here.
Yeah.
I generally know by now. I know basically what most uniforms would look like, especially Napoleonic. So researching individual uniforms takes a couple of hours, say, just to make sure I've got bits and pieces right.
Yeah.
But generally not too long.
Right. And do you suffer from people contacting you all the time saying that you've got 3 buttons on that one, you should have 4?
Not too bad, no. No, there's a few on Instagram occasionally, but no.
Yeah.
Not too bad. No.
So, social media wise, then it's obviously the big thing now. You're on Instagram, aren't you? I've seen some of your stuff on there.
Yeah, I've been on there recently. Yeah.
I don't know what I've done on there recently, but I've gone from. It took me ages, like 3 years, to get 1,000 followers, and I've got another 1,000 in less than a couple of months.
You're more than me then.
I've not done Morris dancing or anything like that. I've not done anything other than just put pictures of painted figures up. So I've got no idea.
I don't know how it works either.
No,
I seem to get a lot of people not doing the same thing as I'm doing. It's odd. You'd have thought you'd get similar people with similar interests.
Yeah. I think I found it's like attention spans. People on Instagram, they very, very rarely, if you put something underneath, they very, very rarely read it. Whereas on Twitter, you get a little bit more interaction with the reading. and then on Facebook you get more, and then a blog post or a website, people are going to that and spending time reading it. So it can be a different experience on each one.
Yeah.
Elite Miniatures got a website?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
EliteMiniatures.co.uk.
Yep.
Suggested.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Is most of your business done through that now, through the website?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it will be. Yeah.
You
used to get quite a few callers, but callers obviously before the shutdown.
Yeah.
You used to get callers. They'll phone up, say what they want.
Yeah.
Because I tend to cast to order. I don't
Right.
keep a lot of stock because it's just wasting money on the shelf. So phone up and order what they want, and then I'll make sure it's cast up for when they're coming up.
Oh, so they'll drop over.
Some do, yeah.
Oh.
Not many nowadays. It used to be a bit more.
Yeah.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
But it's nearly all mail order.
So, have you? I don't think you are at the moment, but have you been part of the show scene, packing up all your stuff in a van and going around the country?
Yes, I did that for many years.
So, what sort of era was that then?
This is 80s and 90s, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what? I think I know what the answer is going to be. What kind of led to you stopping doing that?
I had one show.
Yeah.
It was really bad. I spent 2 weeks casting all this stuff up for this show, and it was a really bad show. I thought, this is a waste of time. And obviously I can't travel as much at the moment, so I just thought I could spend that time getting more stuff out.
Yeah. Because I think for people listening, they don't quite realise as a business the overheads that go into going to a show.
Oh yeah. There's the cost of the stand.
Yeah. And
you lose. Like I say, I was casting for 2 weeks just to get stock ready for the show.
Yeah.
And then you have a bad show.
And you're left with a pile of stock.
Well, you can throw it back in the melting pot and melt it down, but you still spent the time getting it ready.
Yeah.
And you obviously spent the weekend there or the day there.
Yeah.
So.
Did you have your own van or did you hire a van?
I just get it all in the car.
Oh, right, okay. Nice big car.
Yeah, big car, yeah. Made sure it all fitted together and slotted down. And
did you find that brought you new business going to the shows?
It did, because you have the contact over the stand with customers, and you see the regulars coming around every time. Yeah, so that was nice.
Yeah, and you were able to kind of chat and interact with people.
And I still get that now. You get those same customers phoning up, and you still get the chat.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. Production processes have changed over the years, most notably in the last 5 or 6 years, probably, with the introduction of things like resin, plastic, and 3D printing. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you've looked at? Is it something you've considered?
I did try. There's a company in Rotherham that did some scanning and printing in plastic. I took some figures down there to see how it would work out. The detail wasn't very good, so I haven't taken. I have got a 3D printer, little one, and scanner, which I've not used yet. I've had it a while, I've not used it. The computer went down. I had to get that repaired, and I'd lost all the programming. But I don't know. I don't like the material. Part of my enjoyment is being in metal. I like the feel of the metal.
Is it? I mean, with plastic, I believe it's quite expensive, isn't it? With all the tools
to set up,
so I think you've got to more or less guarantee a certain level of sales to make that worth investing in. 3D printing, I'm still not convinced on it, I have to say.
I mean, I've done some work for Colin. He's done some plastic figures,
right?
And I've seen his original masters, and they're about this big,
right?
And they're shrunk down to that size for him to 20 mil, to get them in the mould,
right?
But I can't.
So,
you get a musket at that size. You've got to get it right to get to when you come down to 20 mil.
Right.
That's it's just going to be a spindle.
Yeah.
and it's going to snap off. Yeah.
Yeah. It's is it something that worries you that somebody could maybe scan one of your figures and start printing them?
Oh, I've never considered it before. I suppose it is a bit of a worry.
I think there's a lot of traditional gamers out there who like this and like the metal and will continue to buy it.
Yeah.
I just wondered whether it was something that you considered as a challenge going forward, 3D prints, or are you quite happy that you've got a customer base that are going to?
I'm quite happy at the moment.
Yeah.
I've been keeping an eye on the 3D print because they're now printing in metal.
Right, okay, I've not seen that.
The people who I bought this
Yeah.
printer off keep sending me the information, and they do. I don't know what kind of metal it is, but they do say they can print in metal. But maybe it'll come.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and it's quite as I understand it. I've got a couple of friends who do some. It's quite an extensive time process to produce one figure.
That's the thing that would slow it down. It's the physical printing. Whereas I can cast a mould full of figures in a couple of seconds. Yeah. Where a printer's got to takes ages.
You go to sleep, you go on holiday, and you come back and you've got 10 figures.
Yeah, that would obviously block anybody doing it.
Yeah.
As a business. Yeah. I think.
And people have started to design figures on computers now. Is that anything you consider, or you're happy with that?
I don't know. I don't think I'd want to do it that way. I've thought about it for cannon barrels. Whereas you could scan a cannon barrel in, and that could print off as a master that you can touch up and then put in a mould. Yeah. As an aid to the design to get the metal one out.
Right,
but not as the final product.
Yeah. No, so that's interesting to hear. It just seems to be becoming more and more in vogue at the moment.
It does,
but I don't know whether it suits the sort of gaming that we're talking about here, producing 32, 48 man, 28mm battalions. I'm not sure.
No. Not at the moment, anyway.
Not at the moment, anyway. So, I think on your website you started in 1985. So that's quite a while.
It is
quite a while, and I think most of you, if not all of your ranges, concentrate on horse and musket.
Yes.
85. What we're talking for 35, 36 years.
I've just started my 36 year.
36 year. What have you got left to make after 36 years?
I'm finding it more difficult to find gaps in the market because it seems to everybody's sort of doing them now. Yeah. But there's still a lot of Napoleonic stuff to do. I've not got any Bavarians.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been getting books in and researching Bavarians. There's still, with Collector Series, I still need to add to that. Yeah. I love Franco-Prussian War.
Ah, right.
So there might be something there.
There might be something there.
I've loved Franco-Prussian War since school. So we'll see. It all depends. I always look at the rules as well, how the figures and the rules relate on the table. Yeah. And such long ranges and things. It's still gelling up here at the moment.
Is it?
Yeah.
So, when I start a new project, it can often sit in my head for 2 or 3 years. Yes. Are you a similar sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, I have started designing some Franco-Prussian War figures. Yeah. I've got so far with them, and then I did get diverted and have to do other things. So. Yeah. But yeah, it's sitting there.
But there's still stuff in Napoleonics and 7 Years' War that.
I mean, the 7 Years' War I've had to put on back burner because there's so much other stuff to do. But 7 Years' War is still one of my favourite. Yeah. It's still something I'd like to get back to. But
And do those ideas come to you from yourself, or are you getting people? Have you got Dave from Workshop emailing you every 10 minutes saying I want Franco-Prussians? Have you got people who try and push you on to do something different?
There's one or two that don't quite understand how much work is involved.
Into it,
There's one or two who'd like me to do something completely off the wall that's not going to make any money at all. Yeah. But mainly it's through what I want. I prefer to do. I find I work better if I'm doing something I want to do rather than doing something that somebody else wants.
Right.
So I tend to go down that route.
And has there ever been a temptation? Well, I think there has, because I'm looking at some over there, to change scales. You mentioned earlier on you've got some. You've gone up.
Yeah, I've done some 54s.
You've done some 54s as well.
just because design wise,
Yeah.
you want to challenge yourself to do something else.
Yeah.
So I'm quite keen with the 40s.
Yeah. And I think that range, is it for sale now? That
Not
range?
yet, no.
It's not for sale.
No, not yet, no.
Not for sale.
I want to. Once I like to get them all done, so I get them painted.
Yeah.
And see them in a unit. And see,
Yeah.
yes, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'll
Right.
do more and start bringing them out.
So even at that early stage, then you're thinking about the unit and how
Yes.
the unit looks,
Yes.
rather than. Have you ever thought about going smaller, doing 15mm or?
No.
No.
Eyesight won't.
Eyesight.
Eyesight won't come for it. But 15s has never been anything that I've been keen to get into at all.
Yeah. So the Franco-Prussian stuff, then, is that just a couple of figures that you're working on, or? Because I think the Perrys are looking at it, weren't they?
Well, the Perrys have done it. They did it some years ago
with Foundry. Or?
with Foundry. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I've done 4
Yeah.
figures, or they're part way through, just to see how they looked. And
Yeah. Because there has been a recent, I can't remember the name of the company, a recent Eagles and Lions or something.
Yeah, somebody else has brought them out.
Yeah, but they're aiming, and their rules are very much aiming around more or less like a squad-based game, like bolt action for Franco-Prussian War, where if I think Franco-Prussian War, I'm thinking 60,000, 70,000 a side minimum.
Yeah, that's. I mean, reading up. I love reading on about the war itself and the battles, and it's very much firepower based. It's. I don't know how it would work on the table.
Yeah, we used to at the Leeds Wargames Club where I go. It was quite big. Probably in the mid '90s, a lot of people got into it and did it in 15mm.
Yeah.
And we used a computer set of rules for that. And you weren't walking around in the open in it. You were hiding behind something, and the more solid that thing you were hiding behind, the better.
And I do like to get into how the unit works tactically.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to find out exactly. I mean, I'm quite fluent with the Napoleonic tactics and how they all work, but working out how a French infantry battalion operated, or a Prussian battalion, because the Prussians changed their tactics after the first few battles. Yeah. So you've got to incorporate 2 lots of tactics.
Yeah, this isn't working. Let's try this.
Yeah. So it's heavily based on a skirmish line.
Yeah.
From what I can gather.
Yeah.
You sent your skirmish line out, then you reinforce that skirmish line if need be, or you pulled out.
I've just started looking at the Italian Wars of Independence myself, and the reading up I'm getting up from that is a solid base on which you put out your skirmish line that fought, and then you fell back onto your formed bit if you wanted to charge or get into hand to hand. So interesting period.
It is, yes.
Looking forward to see what you come up with. So what's your most popular stuff then? What comes in through the order book every?
Well, it can vary. I mean, last year it was French. That was. I mean, I keep graphs of what sells each year, and the French were off the top. The year before it was all Russians, late Russians.
Oh,
that was
okay. Yeah.
And you can look back and think, oh, that was so and so buying massive armies for this. Because there are a couple of big collectors out there.
Yeah.
Who send their stuff overseas to get painted and it comes back.
Right.
I mean, this was all paid for by one collector.
Yeah.
Placed a massive order, so it all went into this. So that can vary. Yeah. But making French, Russians and British are the main.
And it's the Napoleonic range that's still the most popular.
Yeah, well, that's mainly what I'm known for and what I do most.
And do you think that's because that's kind of your brand, if you like? I
think so. Yeah. And I think Napoleonic games work better in a war games format.
Yeah.
The whole tactics and the whole way it all works. So.
I think once you get drawn into Napoleonics,
Yeah.
I don't want to use too many drug references, but once you get drawn into it, it's hard to get out. It's like it's an addiction for many people.
And you'll see nice photos of painted units, think, oh, I want that. So,
and then I know a man who supplies that. I'll give him a ring and see what he says. Looking through your website and your various things that you do, there's other things than figures, isn't it? You've got a range of flags.
Yes,
as well.
I started doing flags.
Are they your own designs?
Yes, I do them all myself.
Oh,
these are the big copies.
Big copies, and how do you do those? Are they hand painted or are they?
I do them all on the computer.
Ah, brilliant, brilliant. And how big's that range now?
It's surprisingly big.
Surprisingly big.
Yes.
Napoleonics or into the 7 Years' War as well?
Just Napoleonics at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And that's 28mm.
28mm. Well, that could be any size really, because the print. Just do it on the computer.
Yeah.
But yeah, 28mm at the moment. I'll do the 40mm when I do the. If I do the.
Yeah.
40mm figures.
An interesting question for me. I used to be a painter, and I used to be a professional painter, and I found it quite difficult to separate my personal enjoyment of the hobby away from the business.
Yes.
And obviously, you're fully immersed in it. You're working from home. You're one person doing absolutely everything, but you're still enjoying the hobby as well.
Yes.
Are you just a lucky man, or is there a skill to that? Do you set out time blocks for different things?
Not really. No. When I'm designing a group of figures, especially if it's something I want to do, I'm looking forward to getting them done and cast and painting them.
Yeah.
So that's my driving mechanism, if you like.
Well, that's great because you're clearly still enjoying it.
Yes, I do.
And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, the casting can be a bit monotonous at times, especially in this heat.
Oh God.
But yeah.
So how often? How do you split your time then between casting, painting?
Generally, if I've got orders to cast, I'll cast them in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I'll pack the following morning, so it leaves me the afternoons to design or anything else that needs doing.
And I take it you're quite friendly with the local post office, are you?
Yes, they know me quite well, yes.
Well, you say that, they probably, oh, bloody hell,
he's here again.
Quick, I've got 1,000 parcels to pack. Yeah. And as well as flags, you've done a book as well, haven't you, I believe?
Yes.
What's that called? What's it about? I think we've got a copy of
it. Yeah, there you
go. Creating a Napoleonic Wargames Army, 1809 to 1815. So when did this come out then?
A couple of years ago now, I think. Yeah.
And
I mean, I had no thought of bringing it out. The publishers came to me and says, "We'd like you to do this book."
We've got. I'm just flicking through it now for the because obviously audio you can't see this, but we've got painting guides, we've got organisations, we've got they're nice. I like those. The like top-down views of units, and I take it this is all 28mm and all big games. Excellent, perfect for everyone. Get on Pete's website now. It's good, recommended by me. So you were approached with that then, rather than self.
That was quite daunting because I've never written anything since school.
Yeah.
Longer than a few notes, so it was quite daunting for me, but I got there.
Yeah. Did somebody proofread it for you? Did you feel
my wife proofread it?
Right. Did you feel like you were back at school and it come back with all red pen on?
Yeah.
I'm doing a book for the Italian Wars at the moment, and I'm finding the same thing, that it's like being back at school. I quite enjoy doing the painting guides but it can get to a bit of a grind when you've got loads and loads.
I mean, I've done a few booklets for myself. That's why they came to me, because they'd seen those booklets on the website, but they're mainly sort of uniform guides.
Yeah,
with a few notes on. There's no great prose in it.
Structure and loads of photographs. Yeah. And were all the photographs done here? I seem to recognise the road on the front cover.
They're all my photographs.
Yeah,
all my graphics, everything I did myself in there.
And looking at those, all the photographs all professionally done. Have you got your own photograph set up for the website?
Well, there's lights are over there. I generally do them in here. I do them on my phone now. I used to have a proper camera, but phones are so good.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You just
amazing.
don't need it. You just don't need it.
Yeah. I use this tablet
Yeah.
for all my photographs,
Yeah.
and through part of my work, I have access to a £5,000 full frame digital SLR, and I don't bother with that because it works perfectly. I'll switch it on and does the absolute business. So we're coming to the end of the interview now. What's the future for Elite Miniatures? Do you see any major changes, or what do you think going forward?
I think basically it's more of the same.
Yeah?
Yeah. I can't see any big changes at all. Just maybe the odd, like, different scales, different ranges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
That's
Yes.
that's kind of it. Well, you've been around for 36 years now in the hobby.
Yeah.
So you must be doing something right.
Yeah. Let's hope so.
Because I think if we look back at those magazines from those early days when you started, there's not a lot of those companies still around.
No.
They've fallen by the wayside or been eaten up by somebody like Wargames who just seem to buy absolutely everything under the sun.
Yeah.
Do you get approached by other companies to do stuff for them, or have you? Because you were involved with Connoisseur, weren't you? And then did that? Are they still going? I don't know.
I think somebody's bought it out a few times. I think you still get them somewhere, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those that seems to pop up every now and again.
Yeah. And I did a bit of work for him. Like I say, he wanted me to work for him, but I wanted to work for myself. I teamed together with I can't remember the names now. We were going to do something, but that fell apart.
Yeah.
I'll do a bit for Colin Rumford. He's got some metal figures out, but that's about it, really. Yeah. I prefer to work on my own stuff.
Yeah. Well, you seem like you're a busy man, and that's fantastic to hear. And it's really, really, I'm really grateful you've asked me to come down today. It's been
You're welcome
to sit and have a chat. Just before we finish, I always give the person I've interviewed an opportunity to ask me a question. If you haven't thought of one, don't worry about it. I'm not giving you my PIN number.
What are you doing at the moment?
What am I doing at the moment? Well, in fact, I mentioned it a minute ago. I'm doing some 28mm Italian Wars of Independence. Gringo 40s. I don't know if you've heard of the company. No. They've got a really, really lovely range from like the Garibaldi era. And I'm a bit obsessed with papal forces for some reason. I don't know why. So my Italian Wars Army is papal, and I'm doing some papal figures for the Italian Wars of Independence. Whilst writing this book, whilst trying to do painting for the book,
I'm working full time.
So it's not easy. It's not easy, but there we go. So thank you very much for your time again.
You're welcome.
Just like to say thank you very much, and hopefully we'll speak again in the future.
Yes.
Thanks very much. See you, everyone.
See ya. Bye.
Great chat with Pete there from Elite Miniatures, and thanks once again to him for inviting me down to Elite Miniatures HQ, and we had a lovely morning stroke early afternoon chewing the fat about all things wargaming and all the bits that we could broadcast. You've had a listen to, so thanks once again, Pete, and please bob down to the Elite Miniatures website, have a look at his stuff, have a look at his flags and his rules and the book and all the lovely figures. They are really, really nice, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll have seen all the lovely photographs I took when I was down there of his stuff that will accompany this this with the video on the YouTube. Looking forward to the next guest, as we always do at this point in the show. I'm going to be talking to a chap called John Lander. Now, John's been mentioned a couple of 3 times during the course of the podcast by other guests, and if you think that you've got a big game, let me tell you, you haven't, because John has got a big game. He is probably most famous for I think it was a 72-foot long table, 54mm figures. I think it was Market Garden, World War Two. My puny 12-foot table here at Yorkshire Gamer bears into insignificant compared to some of the stuff that John does. He's living out in the States now, and he's doing a bit of painting and lots of stuff. He's got lots of figures down at the Wargames Holiday Centre that he's painted, and he's got some funny stories. That as the lad, he was the one who, if you remember from the episode with Mark Freeth, rolled the huge model of the Campbelltown down the aisle of a Wargames show whilst blowing a klaxon. So it should be fun talking to John. In the meantime, look after yourselves out there, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Siddy.